Hey everybody, this is Chris from Hendyamps. I am coming at you with the Nuclear Unicorn, but the biggie size, also known as the Mega Nuclear Unicorn. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure exactly how I should approach this demo because, I mean, you can use this thing in 8 quadrillion different ways. Everything from a beautiful, clean sounding preamp, which is how I'm using it right now with a handheld vocal condenser microphone. It's a Beta 87A, just so you have a reference. I mean, this mic pre can be just extremely articulate, great for any source, really. But then it can turn into a raging monster, and on top of that, it can turn into a multiband raging monster. And I wasn't really sure how do you show this thing off in all of its different applications, because I mean, this video would be 8 days long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and walk through briefly with my voice, showing you the controls, talking you through what each one of these things do. Because once you understand the concept of it, then everything starts to make more sense with all of the crazy names. Just, yeah, those were intended to be as outrageous as possible with the regular Nuclear Unicorn. Well, anyway, so what happened was I had a customer who said, hey, I love this Nuclear Unicorn, it's amazing, but I want like a gazillion channels of a multi-band version of this. And so I put my mind to, how would I even do this? And so the net result was what you see here. On the bottom row, you have the exact same as the regular Nuclear Unicorn. It operates independently of these, and it is 100% the normal, regular Unicorn. Then what you have is you have the same Nuclear Unicorn, but with truncated controls, mainly just the gain controls. And I went ahead and kind of preset the low cutoff and the high cutoff and things like that and different variations so that you didn't have to worry about doing all the switches, because it would just take something insane and make it even unusable. And so you have control over the highs, the mids, the lows. Yes, I know these are reversed. There are reasons as to why that has to be this way, dealing with squealing and such, because when you have this many gain stages in one unit, it just gets out of control. So it's best to think of a normal Nuclear Unicorn with 3 more Nuclear Unicorns, each controlling their own frequency ranges in parallel with the regular Nuclear Unicorn. So I'll start off by just reminding you about the regular Nuclear Unicorn controls. So this first control right here, called Shockwave, is actually going to be your low cut. So as you turn it up, you're cutting out all the lows. Very important when you're using distortion and so forth, but sometimes when you have flabby sources, it's helpful to clean it up. This knob right here is your gain knob. It's your first gain stage knob. I got to be careful. So it's your first gain stage knob. Second one is your second gain stage knob, so you can actually change the tonality and type of distortion depending upon if you front load the distortion and overdrive all the rest, or if you don't front load the distortion but you start it here or you start it here, which is another gain stage knob. So think of it as gain 1, gain 2, gain 3, and you can change them for different sounds and different types of distortion, different types of overdrive, and this is your output flow, if you will. This is your output level, your trim. So then you also have a kind of an EQ. It's a transformer-based inductor-ish capacitor bypass EQ kind of feel, called gamma burst. And so when you flip the switch, then obviously it gets really, really dark, but you turn this knob up, and it kind of changes the overall feel and sound of the unit. Like you can hear it now compared to when it's off, and now my mids come back because there's a low mid dip happening here, which again, very, very helpful with certain applications. This switch right here, the megatongue and increase, it's going to give you your high mid boost. Also very important when you're using instruments or when you need some super clarity. A little bit more of a harsh clarity. So again, you got to use it in the right circumstances, but I use it a lot. And then as far as you see that enhanced tactical mode is up, it's acting a little bit like a dark switch when it's down. So right now you can actually hear what it sounds like with this mic, but it's a little bit darker. When I flip it up, I get a little bit of a boost in the top end, which actually brings it closer to what the mic originally sounded like. Now, as you turn all these knobs and you start getting insane gain and high frequency buildup, this knob actually will start to turn into a little bit of a high frequency limiter. Again, reasons you don't have this much gain without some wonkiness happening, but it makes for some fun. Tactical mode, you're going to get a dark switch essentially. That helps clean up some of the high fizz when you need it. And again, the enhanced tactical mode will change depending upon how you're using it. You already talked about gamma burst. Okay, and you got the pad. There's your pad, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about the things that make the Mega Nuke what it is, and a whole separate unit. And why, Chris, did you make a 4U unit? Well, essentially what's happening is you'll have a kill switch on each one of these. At high gain settings, that kill switch won't kill every last bit of noise, because again, when you have like 8 bazillion high gain settings, it's stuff. Stuff just happens. And so I tell you what we'll do. We'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and shut this unicorn off. Everything feeds through the flow, so this will be your master trim for all of this together. It's kind of like everything sums together, goes to your master trim. So I'm going to turn the regular unicorn all the way down and just engage the high, and then I'll do the mids, and then I'll do the lows, so that you can kind of get an idea of it. Again, I told you I struggled with how I'm going to do this. All right, so here we go. Gain down. And now you hear the highs. And I chose the cutoffs of these because while you may have a high cut or a low cut or some kind of cut, for one application, like a clean application, it will shift as you distort, because no matter how much cutting you do, it starts to kind of squash together. And so these curves will actually be a bit changeable depending upon your gain settings. So this is operating again just like this. You can actually hear just a little bit of breakup happening when I get really loud. So let me go ahead and turn this up. I'm going to turn the flow down here. Remember, this is your master flow. This will always be driving everything, but you've got a separate flow for your highs. So I'm going to go ahead and gain this up a bit, and you can kind of hear what's happening here. Check, 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 1, 2. So we're obviously about to start squealing here. And this is why I actually chose a handheld condenser and not a LDC, because I would be feeding back through my earphones. Okay, so you can hear the kind of change in the tonality of the distortion as I choose what stages I want to overdrive. So if I keep it low here, but I overdrive it here, there's one type of tonality. Overdrive it here, get another. Let me turn that down and turn this up. A lot of overlap, but you start getting a little bit more of a muddiness to it, depending on where you do the overdrive. So it's endless possibilities, endless fun. I absolutely love this unit. Now, in the high frequencies, you obviously can deal with a little bit of a trouble with fizziness. And so that's where these switches come in this knob. So here's your high cut number 1. Test, 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 1, 2. Check, check, 1, 2. Let's say that I need more. Okay, check, 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 1, 2. I now have more. Check, check, 1, 2. Or let's say that I want to do it by ear. Check, 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 check. That's that. And you can actually stage all these together, so you can get it a lot darker than just one single one. And it gives you a lot of different options. You can make it do a million different things. Okay, so let's go to the mid-range. All right, so now we have the mid-range. Clarity might become an issue a little bit. But here is your mid-range. You notice that those highs have been dropped, and I'm still not covering into the low territory. But let's go ahead and see if I can gain this up a bit. Check, 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 1, 2. This has a little bit of a, well, you can hear it right now. Check, 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 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Check, check, check. So obviously this has a different tonality than the highs, as it should. We're going to get into a little bit of difficulty understanding what I'm saying if I'm not careful. But you can hear the signal as it squashes. It actually increases the frequency spectrum a little bit more. That's what I mean by it's shifting as you gain it up and down. Guitarists will understand what this is kind of like. Whereas when you gain up a guitar amp, then your lows become a little bit louder by proportion, and same with your highs and so forth. Okay, let's go to the lows. This will be really hard to discern what I'm saying, so I'll try and do my best to help out. Okay, so we have the lows. I'm hoping you can understand what I'm saying. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little run through on this. Here we go. Let's clean this up. Check, 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 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. All right, bringing some clarity back in. Okay, so you can hear that thing gets really unwieldy quick, which is super fun with synth. It's also fun with bass guitar and guitars and drums and just everything. It's super fun. But now I'm bringing in the highs and the lows, so you can kind of hear what this sounds like. You can notice your mids are completely not there, obviously. I'm going to start doing a little overdrive on this. Check, 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 1, 2, check, 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 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, test 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, test 1, 2. Anyway, so fun stuff. Now I'm going to bring the mids in. Check, 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 1, 2, test 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2. So you can really kind of shape some interesting sounds. You can get your AM effect, you can get every other kind of effect, and it really works well in conjunction with the whole rest of the unit. So for instance, let's go ahead and bring the regular nuke back in. Check, check, 1, 2. Check, check, 1, 2. So here's the regular nuke back in with it, and you can support it. Let me go ahead and turn these off. So you can actually support it in a variety of different ways, like check, 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 check. I want some of that low breakup. Why? Who knows? Yeah, there's a million different things you can do. What about some mid? Check, 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 1, 2, test. Want some mid, grit. Check, 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 1, 2, test. But it's supported by the regular nuke. Check, 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 1, 2. Yeah, so it's super interesting, the kind of things that you can do in just about every application. Or let's say that I want some of that high grit. Check, test, 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 1, 2, check, check. But I don't really want it to be quite so apparent in the sizzle, so let's go ahead and do that. Check, 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 1, test, test, test. Or you could just go dark like that and then really crank this up. So it's really fun. I love this unit so much. I hope you can tell that. Okay, so somebody's asked me a couple times, what do you find yourself using this most on? Because honestly, we're using this all the time, and it's funny because the one thing that I really never considered it for is the one thing that we're using it more than anything for in the studio these days, and that is someone sends in a mix, and it's got some guitars or it's got some keys or whatnot that just sound kind of lifeless. Like, a lot of times they've gone through a Kemper, or it's gone through some sort of a crappy amp, or it's not mic'd well, and so somebody's thinking that we're going to rescue it, and or they think it sounds great, but it's just the stereo spread sucks. And so what we'll do is we'll actually run the tracks, whether they be guitars, keys, bass, whatever it is, and I got 4 of these things lined up, and we'll just add some grit and some overdrive to it, and all of a sudden the mix just sounds massive because we're doing kind of different things for left and right. And so it's actually been the rescue mix world for us of late. But a lot of other guys that use it, they're using it for drum bus, a lot of drum bus. A lot of it's keys, man. Keys, what it does is just really cool. And then I've actually had some metal guitarists say that this is like secret weapon territory for them. Just add an amplifier to it and you're done. So I'm going to walk through now and go through, and I'll put markers so that you should be able to see for all, just a smattering of different examples.